This is the August 26th Verify Testing UX Research PM Sync. And I think I have the entire agenda today, at least what's in there so far. I wanted to start just taking a look at the 13.4 design items. We have 4 of them in there. And I wanted to talk about deprioritizing 2 of them. Juan, to give you more time to focus on the other 2.
Okay, let me.
I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen so we can
Okay.
look at them while we talk. So these are the 4 that are in workflow design in 13.4. I think that with the change that we're making with the sorting, that the showing the failed tests only by default doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Wanted to get your take. One of the other motivations of this was to try to parse the reports faster. We know now that it doesn't matter if we only show the failed ones, we have to parse the entire report anyway.
Right.
So saying, hey, we're just going to show failed tests doesn't improve our speed. By pulling the failed test to the top, which we're doing in another issue, we accomplish the same task.
Totally. I completely agree. This one has designs though, right?
This one does have designs. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
I just looked at the list and saw there was 4 things in there, and that stacked you up pretty deep.
So yeah, I already added designs for these.
Okay.
Basically a total.
Well, never mind then.
Let me make sure, and then we can at least together like acknowledge if we want to deprioritize these basically because like.
Oh, I'm in the wrong issue. Hold on. I'm like, this looks like a chain or a unit test report, not a. Yeah, you're right. This already has the designs in it. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're going to put that toggle in there. That's right.
If you turn it on, then like it hides the like all the failed tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an option, but I think you're right about like the sorting, perhaps solving this already.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one can get like, we can park this one
Okay.
for a while and see what happens with the sorting, and then we can figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the idea of hiding the failed ones. I honestly, when like I commit something and I open an MR, I care about the failed ones, never about, that's my particular case, so it makes sense to me that like, I don't even want to see the failed ones, even if they are, I don't even want to see the successful ones, even if they are hidden, if they are at the bottom of the table,
Yeah,
that makes sense. I just care about the failed, perhaps the skip, well, not the skip ones, just the failed ones.
I think in context of like a pipeline or an MR, that makes a ton of sense because you just want to see what is blocking your pipeline from passing, right?
Right.
Or blocking your merge.
That's the job to be done for that particular persona, but like sorting is gonna solve it too, I feel. So yeah. Let's see.
Okay. So it was that one, and then the other one, which you also already have designs in here for, was to not iterate any further on this show the last 10. With
you don't
the
want to iterate further on this one anymore?
Not right now. I don't think it's our priority because we've revamped the MVC to just show the count of the failed tests.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that with that Redis counter.
And I actually
just show that in the tooltip. I think that we have, I think we should maybe look at that design and make sure it's tight so that we can do it in 13.5.
Right. Yeah, I don't have designs for that one, but I saw your wireframe. So can we find that issue? And
yeah, you flatter me by calling that a wireframe.
It's a wireframe for sure.
Yeah, test history.
Yeah, so yeah, I can create a mock for this. And I like that solution as an MVC. I mean, that's more or less originally what we have discussed before we did all the other crazy stuff. Yeah. So it makes sense, right? It's kind of like a good first step. Could you add my active label, the one that I have been using lately? to this one?
Sure can.
And just assign it to me too. I mean, both things. Perfect. All right, and then maybe then we can we can put the last 10 in standby and then change the milestone then.
Yeah, so if we put this one into, are these labels scoped for you? Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Put that into standby. I'm going to backlog it. Search on milestones is now case sensitive, I've noticed, because I put more things into the backlog than any other milestone.
Yeah.
And it used to select the backlog milestone without the capital B. All right, so that's done. You have an active label then on the other one. There's no design item on that. It's just the implementation item for this test history.
Yeah.
And my example is just in the unit test report. There's an active discussion going on in the comments about potentially putting this into the MR.
Okay.
But most of that is around, is it easier to implement there?
Okay. I'll try.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't matter where we put it. I think we'll still be able to get quality feedback, and I have no signal about which of those two places gathers more eyeballs, where there's more eyeballs on those. So I can't say, well, quantitatively, we'll get more people looking at this here versus here right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you ask me, I would say that the MR widget like gets more eyes for sure.
You think?
But passively, you know what I'm saying? Like active people looking at something, it's gonna be the test. So we're probably gonna get more feedback, because if you go to that view, it's because you're actively looking at your tests, right?
Yeah.
And DMR, you likely are gonna ignore it. So like it gets more eyeballs on DMR. Doesn't necessarily mean that it gets more active people, you know, on it.
Yeah. I think either way, we're gonna want to do a little bit of promotion through some social channels to try to gather feedback on this. I will try to highlight it in the release post. I can work with Parker to do a little example video and a blog post about it, and both highlight the implementation of this is now a history of your tests of a limited history, and this is our minimum viable change. We expect this to be a temporary feature on .com while we gather feedback. Here's where to give us that feedback about how you feel like this should iterate to be a better experience. Yeah, so we can kind of highlight both the feature and our process in that blog post. That might be interesting.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
Okay, cool. So I think I have this already in our team chat for tomorrow to talk about where this thing ends up. I'm going to defer to you a little bit on where you think it's going to be a better experience in the MVC. So if you have an opinion on that, try to form that up so you can speak to it.
Yeah,
except from a quantitative perspective, I just don't know.
I'll put my comments on the issue, and yeah, cool. I'll try also to like be objective. I think more than anything, like, I mean, more than the location, I think it's getting the feedback, right? And
yeah,
I think it's gonna depend a lot on if we do what you said we are gonna do, right? Like telling people, hey, what do you think about these? Trying to gather that feedback like more proactively, right?
Yeah, I think either way, regardless of where we put it, we need to do that so that we can get some quality feedback on this feature or on this MVC.
All right, sounds good. I'll check in later.
And then the designs for vision of the testing categories, we talked about that a little bit last week. That's that lo-fi. I think that we have in there the workflows that we want to get some sketches for.
Right, I'm working on those actually. I'm just wireframing right now.
Awesome.
I don't wanna kind of like spoil it. So I haven't put anything yet because I'm like,
yeah, no worries. And then we already talked about that. The cleanup language. I think this one's ready to roll.
Yeah, that one's ready to roll. But like my last comment is that we should probably break it apart into 2 issues or like 3 issues potentially.
Right.
One, if you go to the bottom of this issue, like I have a proposal there of like what should we do, and I said that I was gonna do it, so I can do it actually.
Okay.
I haven't
I'll
done it.
follow up in a couple of days, and if I don't see the issues, I'll start creating them and just
No,
tag you
okay,
on
yeah,
them for refinement,
yeah. Let me.
just to help keep it moving along.
Yeah, no, and that one's ready for sure. So, I'm gonna take a note.
All right. Stop my share then. I don't know where that window just went. It had the agenda in it. There we go.
Right.
All right. Great. Thank you for helping us take notes, Nadia. I totally lost the agenda.
I did my best. I skipped one item, but yeah.
It's all good. Well, the transcript will be there, so we'll upload the transcript too. The next item for me was the job to be done research and the maturity research. I tagged Lori in a question in the agenda. I had some questions about persona and who we're targeting. So when we think about viable versus minimal, and the jobs that we're researching right now in the code testing and coverage, we've added in the issue that is listing the jobs. The current step that we're on is brainstorming jobs between myself, Juan, and our 2 engineering managers. We've added persona to those. We think that for this next maturity state, we will target the developer persona and advance, if we meet the jobs, the category maturity to viable for that persona. We know that we are not close to viable for our team lead or director personas. So we just wanted to get some guidance on, well, should we test for one persona, knowing that we have some feature sets for others?
Yeah, I wanted to hear Nadia's opinion on this because this one is very confusing to me regarding like the category maturity scorecard. So we have categories, right? We have like, let's say 3 categories. I'm just talking about like a theoretical category, not this one, just for the sake of the example, I'm gonna use another one. So we have a category in GitLab. We, a group in GitLab that has 3 categories, right? So each of those categories have a level of maturity, but in our particular case, like there could be a category that serves 2 completely different personas, right?
Yeah.
One serves the engineer, the final front end or a backend engineer that's doing like its daily job. And it could also serve a director or executive level type of thing, you know, like type of person.
Yeah.
Is the same category, completely different jobs to be done, completely different feature sets, you know, but they fall under the same category. So if, however you want to see it, it could be either lovable or non-viable at all, right?
Yeah.
Wait, Juan, I want to clarify. In your example, does each category serve a different persona, or within the category, are there different features that serve different personas?
Within the category, you serve different personas.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And hey, this is not like, and again, I will reply on my, from my knowledge and understanding, I think Lori's verification will be much helpful here. But from what I see happening in other stage groups is that there is never a case when the category serves only one persona. It's always like that. We have multiple personas. And our goal for the category maturity scorecard process is to pick the primary. Well, we need to have like a list of jobs to be done, and then we pick one primary, or like the one that we want to focus on. Usually that's the primary. If that's like the second time we are running this, that could be like the second primary, but we pick one job to be done. And that for that job to be done, we can still, this job to be done can be solving a challenge or a problem for multiple personas. If that's the case, if we have selected that primary job to be done, that is that can be serving multiple personas, what is our official process of CMS proposing is that we cover we try to get the mix of the people when we are validating the experience. So for example, and actually the minimum number of participants is 5. That's proposed by apply the new CMS process. So for example, if we would say we selected this primary job to be done, and we have like, and it could possibly cover like team lead and engineer persona. That means that we will need to take minimum of 10 participants, 5 of that and 5 of that. This is my understanding of the process. I also have linked an example here of the create source code category maturity process. It's pretty wide. It's pretty nicely done. It's still ongoing, but there is an evidence there that they are validating with multiple personas, one job to be done, well, in the same process.
But isn't it possible that in the process of doing this, you realize that you have enough job to be done for a persona to create a completely new category? I mean, I feel that that could be an actual outcome of this process.
Yeah, I totally see. I mean, code testing and coverage is so broad. We might get to the point where we split just coverage and testing.
Right.
And we start to look at individual test results versus test coverage. Like we may get where we have enough jobs that the feature set covers to make that split. At that point, it may make more sense to, instead of like they both become the same maturity, one of them downgrades because like coverage isn't quite there.
Yeah, I feel like it will happen for sure. And I don't know exactly what's the guidance there. I mean, like what's the, anyway, I think like Lori is the one who kind of like probably shine some light on it, but
yeah, I'm sure, like, I kind of like go ahead and like see what Lori will probably say also, that the CMS process is not perfect, and that I know that we've been looking into like replacing it overall with something else. And again, similarly to what you're now describing, we had the same scenario in the release management when we felt like that job to be done is just covering like this little bit part. And I mean, and that's like, that really hard to validate just with that little thing, the maturity of the whole category. Yeah, I would really look up to Lori here, what she says, but yeah, this is the way we do this today. And
I think it's expected to like that we're finding those little hiccups just because like not many people have done it, right? Like everyone is gonna do it, and then they're gonna find like new, like, you know, like what happens when this happens, you know, like that type of reasoning is gonna be very common as we keep doing more of this. So it's fine. I mean, I'm just saying, let's ask Lori, and either way, let's move forward with our category maturity scorecard, because we feel that we want to move those categories, that particular category, and then in the process we will figure out if we need to do kind of like some sort of like cutoff or like fork of the categories. I don't know. It's everything seems reasonable since we're just discovering what's the best for us to proceed.
I added next steps, I'll verbalize. I think that our next steps are just keep moving forward with our job to be done validation, because that's the process that we're in for both personas, our team lead and our developer. And that way we can at least validate the jobs to be done. As part of the category maturity scorecard interviews, we may only pick one of those personas, like the primary job for developers, and validate against that. And we can make that decision later. But I don't think we need to make that decision now. And even if we did, it's a two-way door. We could, back ourselves back and say, actually, we're only going to do one. Cool.
Again, let's see what Lori says. I'm kind of curious what she thinks.
Lori is going to tell us we have to validate for all the personas. So we're just going to, I'm just going to assume that Lori is going to validate for me, that we should validate for all the personas. So we're just going to go down that route. And I would be pleasantly surprised if we don't have to do that.
I can hear it with her voice right now on my mind, like saying that.
Yep. Thank you, Lori, when you're watching this later. All right. And then researching low usage. This is the other thing in the last couple of minutes that we have that I'm starting to think about. We're just getting telemetry around our paid features. Paid group monthly active users is our primary performance indicator for the verified testing team. And so we're looking at ways to research why customers aren't using features. Code quality report, this is the only one that we have data on now. I have a good idea on why people don't use it. The visual reviews, I have a good idea of why people don't use it, and we're starting to do other things to impact those numbers. The one that is surprising to me, and the only data point we have, is browser testing. the data point that we have is how many jobs include the template for browser testing, and that is trending down. I don't have data about how many people interact with the widget though, but I have to assume that that is also going down. If not as many jobs are including that data, there's less opportunity to interact with it. So my question is there an existing process that we can use to get feedback from customers who were using it and aren't, or who want to use it and can't?
Do we know the names? Well, not the names, but do we know the particular people who we can like reach out to for that, or?
We could probably find out. We can work through the TAMs. We can work through some sort of data set probably to figure out who is using this feature, like specifically which customers. Or there may be a more broad-based approach that we could try. Maybe we do an in-app notification of trying to gather the data.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, actually, that pushes me to another idea that I had. Again, like I will try to take the turn here on Lori's side, but like, yeah, it's all up to her, of course. I see two ways here. There is usually, well, when we are trying to understand the usability of the feature, we sometimes can try to find out the SAS score, like that will tell us about the general usability, and that could be like or inserted as a widget on the page, or we can send a follow-up survey, like, you know. But the questions there are more generic, like would you recommend this feature, or like what was your experience, like you know. So they're generic. Or another idea for getting quick results. Quick is always surveys, I think, and like we could define a short list of questions, like, have you tried this feature, like what was your experience like, what did you miss, or like why you're not continuing, blah blah. And then if we would find a good set of responses, maybe we can get them more in touch and have maybe a more detailed conversation, get more data if we would be needing. That would be my initial thought.
I like that. Actually, like the survey approach. One question: all these data, it's like it makes it to the database like anonymized. Like when you just query it, you cannot determine who's using the browser template. Or how does that work?
I don't remember if it's anonymized or pseudonymized. I can check in with the team and see if we get. I don't think we get a user ID or like a customer ID on this.
Okay.
Even if we did, what I would look for is the negative of that, of who's not using it. So maybe it would be customer used it a month ago, hasn't used it since then.
But if you like apply like the kind of like negative filter to it, you know, you can just go and ask the people who are using it, like, hey, you're using it, what's good about it, what's bad about it, and you can like extrapolate why like some people maybe just like not using it at all, or like dropping it completely if they, or if there's a way that we can find someone who used it, set it up, didn't like it, and removed it, you know, that will be even more telling than anything else, you know.
Yeah, I might start with just pinging in like the account management for the some of those rooms and see if there's customers who have used it in the past and have stopped. The cab might also be a good way to query for that of, hey, who's using this browser performance testing? What's the widget telling you? What is it not?
Right. Personally, I'm going to create a project and I'm going to test it myself to see how it feels.
Great.
I mean, right away, I will find like some hiccups on the UX and anything that we do, like, improving the feature, just like, it's a win, right? Like anything that we can do to improve the usability of the feature. And by the way, that's the goal right now as a company, right? Like we're moving more towards usability and like improving the existing set of features. So it makes sense that we do that. I'll do that for sure.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else have agenda items to discuss in our last couple of minutes?
I think I'm good. I mean, like I was gonna cover the existing items, and you already did that for me. So thanks.
You're a star of today's meeting, James. You got it all. Thanks.
If you don't fill up an agenda, I'll fill it up for you. Don't worry about that.
That's good. That's the deal.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.
See you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.